Welcome to this edition of the Not So Common Podcast. I'm Pat Contry, and today my guest is Richard Masucci from ReviewTechUSA on YouTube. Now, Rich has been on YouTube for a long while, November 2008, so wow, that's nearly 9 years. He's a veteran of the game, so to speak. Welcome, Rich. It's nice to talk to you again. I haven't spoken to you since that New Jersey game convention in September when I met you.
Yeah, it's been a while. How you been?
I've been very, very busy with stuff. Not to get into all my projects right away, but I'm starting production on the follow-up book for the Super Nintendo library.
Holy crap! You're starting that, or God bless you, man.
Well, I'm being a little bit smarter, where I'm going to be bringing in more authors to do more of the actual writing work, because my knowledge on the Super Nintendo library isn't as sharp as the NES, and plus it would probably kill me again to do 450 reviews on another book. It was something that at the time, looking back, I don't know how I did it. But it was a necessity just to do it and get it done. But I don't have the energy to do that again. I just don't.
That book, that book was like a tale. I reviewed that book on Twitch, and that book was like a tale of two cities. It was insane. That book was phenomenal.
Well, Tale of Two Cities. So it looked good, but it was actually bad to read. You mean, or
no?
The thickness of a Tale of Two Cities.
No,
okay.
No, book. Yeah, your book that goes over every single NES game, Pat. It was terrible. It was horrible. No,
was there anything that you surprised you when you looked through it? Like, was there games you didn't realize
I got to
that
look
existed?
back in the video. There were some games where I thought you were going to like them and you didn't, and there were some games where you liked them and I didn't. But that's subjective, so you can't hold anything. I got to look at the book, and I have it like, where the hell do I have it actually?
Well, yes, we're not be plugging my book already too soon. But tell me, Rich, you started on YouTube a little bit after I did. Back, I would say, in YouTube, still the tail end of YouTube 1.0. You want to say, and you have nearly 600,000 subscribers. So obviously, you're a veteran of the game. You've seen it and done a lot. Just, I guess, describe how you started off and why you started posting on YouTube originally.
I was bored and I knew I was going to get laid off. Like, it's really that simple. I worked I've talked about this in a couple of videos. I worked at IBM, and there was you've worked in kind of a similar environment, but like in a corporate environment, when a rumor persists, there's probably truth to it. And people kept on saying, Rich, our whole division is probably going to get laid off. So I was like, I just broke up with my ex at the time, which was a good thing. But I just broke up with her. So I had I had an apartment to myself. I had all this time in the world. I'm like, all right, I'm going to just start uploading stupid reviews for the hell of it. And
what did you do specifically at IBM, if you can say?
Yeah, I could say. I actually started off as IT. I actually used to do IT for IBM at a Gap facility that just caught fire recently in Fishkill, New York. And then they moved me over to doing mainframe diagnostics, where they used to have these big silver mainframes that you used to have to test the processors and see what was wrong with them. And then I was laid off. That was that simple. They brought us on.
One of those, you call to the conference room, they sequester you from the other employees that are not going to get fired, and all right, you 30, you're done. Is that basically what happened?
It was,
because I've been around my company for about 2 or 3 of those. I never was a part of them, but it was always like, oh yeah, the other office, they laid off like 30 people today, and it's like, oh, that's cool.
It was so weird because we had a Christmas break, an unpaid Christmas break, by the way. That was beautiful. Nothing like not working for 7 days straight and not being paid for it. And then we came back, and literally the day we came back, they're like, oh, come meet us in the office. It wasn't even at the building that we worked in, so you already knew something was up. And they're like, yep, unfortunately, your division's being laid off. You'll collect unemployment. And I found I had pneumonia that day, too, because I almost passed out because I couldn't breathe. So it was a good day.
Did you get a pension or a little severance, or just
unemployment? No, just unemployment. Yep.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So is that what you studied in college? Was it computer science?
No, I actually did communications. I did theater. I just kind of tripped into doing the computer stuff, which is kind of ironic because they all kind of mix together now with what I do, if you think about it.
So you had a flair for the theatric in college. Did you actually do any stage plays or anything of that nature?
Yeah, I did a bunch of them when I was in college. What's up?
Like, give me an example. What did you do? Shakespeare? Did you do just smaller one-act plays? What did you do?
I did full plays. I did a bunch of Shakespeare. There was a play I did called 5th of July. I also did some like short film, nothing you would know. It was mostly student project stuff.
Wow. What was your favorite Shakespeare work?
My favorite Shakespeare work. Well, sure.
YouTubers aren't used to talking about Shakespeare. Probably it's not really a topic that comes.
Gotta wipe the cobwebs off my brain. I guess
Tempest, Midsummer's Night Dream, more comedic stuff.
I did Midsummer's Night Dream. I was actually in that play.
Oh wow.
Yes, I was in Midsummer Night's Dream. And what was the other one that I was in? And I cannot think of it right now. God,
Henry VIII.
No, you're going back like 20 years on me, Pat. I'm old as shit. No, 15 years. I'm sorry, 15. I'm not.
How old? So we're about the same.
I'm 35.
Age range.
Yeah, I'm 35.
We're in the same age range then. Interesting. So we come from a not similar background, but I think a similar life experience where you go to college. This is before YouTube even exists. You get trained or learn something totally unrelated to. Well, you were somewhat related if you were into theater. And then I actually started computer science in college, and then ended up switching because I was failing it. Then we come out. We do our quote-unquote real jobs, real-life jobs. It sucks the life out of us. Then we end up sliding into entertainment via online media and YouTube. So it's interesting because I wanted to get to that conversation a little bit later, but we can talk about it now. I think there is definitely a different philosophy, or at least I think a division between the, I guess, old guard YouTubers or prior generation, especially those in their 30s, versus I think the newer YouTubers coming up. And for the most part, the newer YouTubers are the ones that are the face of YouTube. You know, the PewDiePies, the Markipliers, the Casey Neistats, the ones that are more on the younger side overall, Jacksepticeye. And do you see that philosophy being different in how, not just how YouTube is used, but I guess in how the personalities are?
Yes, and it's a tough thing to answer because I do, but at the same time, I see similarities. There's definitely different tastes with the younger YouTubers, and I guess you could say the younger audience than our age. And I think that maybe might be not a conflict because I have no issue with any of the YouTubers, but I think it's I guess you could say it's different taste than our taste, and maybe that's where they kind of strike a chord with a larger audience. Because let's face it, more people watch YouTube are younger than we are, than our age, you know, and that's why I think you see the guys that are like in their early 20s or even mid 20s getting the bigger viewer bases because that's the general demographic of YouTube.
So, in terms of their content, what do you see that they're hitting upon that's different? Even let's just say a 25-year-old YouTuber versus a 35-year-old YouTuber. What is the biggest difference you've seen in terms of how their content is different in general?
I guess you could say the comedy. I mean, not that my comedy is uber mature. I talk about nipples and cucumbers almost on a daily basis, but so you can't say that I have a mature, refined sense of humor. There's a different energy. Like, I've watched maybe 2 of Jacksepticeye's videos. Not that I have any issue with him. It's just, that's all I've seen of him. And there's like that you almost see it in a lot of like the Minecraft YouTubers, that super energy that I just don't have. You know what I mean?
And the performance art aspect of it maybe is at a different level.
Yes, exactly. That pretty much nailed what took me. You just said it in 4 words, what took me like 3 minutes. But yeah, it's like a different. Yeah, they have a different delivery, which I think caters to the younger audience. That's why they get that bigger audience, But I got to say with PewDiePie, it's interesting is that he's smart. I mean, he got in trouble with what he did, and that's a whole different thing. But
we can talk about that later.
We can talk about that later. His content has changed, and he realized he's getting older, and he realizes the audience that may have been supporting him when he started, they may be gone. And I think that's the reason why PewDiePie got so big, because I think he knew when to jump off one ship and go on to another.
So you think PewDiePie was in that more performance art style until, let's say, a couple years ago when he tried to go quote-unquote more mature and edgy, and it shifted more to like... I don't know, something more like an H3 production where it's more like either commentary or quote unquote in his words satire, or he's trying to say something a little bit larger than yelling and being fakely, fake scared at computer games or something of that nature.
Yeah, he says he even makes himself cringe. Like, he looks at his older videos and it's like, yeah, I wasn't really scared. That was terrible. Like, he's like
that. But that's interesting though, what you just hit upon, because if you have a YouTuber, the biggest YouTuber, basically admitting that what he was doing was persona versus being himself, but it's an act, obviously, and that's how you get your views. But maybe that's the divide. Not that saying people like Markiplier and Jacksepticeye are not being authentic to some aspect, but they are performing as a character first and foremost when they are playing their games or speaking to their audience. And so maybe that's the difference on some aspect, because an older YouTuber, like someone like James Rolfe, you could tell clearly, because it was a performance in short films, AVGN, he's playing a character. He's not coming out and saying, "Hey guys, the nerd here. Today I'm talking about this and I'm playing a game." You can tell it's a finished product where he's a character inside of it. And not that that's died out entirely, but I think that's also part of the division, where I've seen where it used to be the most popular YouTubers were the more finished products, or the most popular online media. Like a lot of the people on That Guy with the Glasses that blew up, like people like Doug Walker, were making these more short films that were more edited, highly edited, written, polished, took more time to produce. And now it's more like an interactive Disney show with hosts that come on and sort of you tag along with them for the ride. And it's interesting because that's obviously been the shift. And not that the older YouTubers, I think, are left out in the cold, but like you said, that's not what the audience on YouTube is. The older you get, the more I think you skew towards quote-unquote more refined entertainment and stuff on Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime. So I've sort of come to accept the fact that I will never be a YouTuber with like millions of subscribers. That's just not what I cater towards. That's not what my fan base is. So do you bother yourself to even think about those sort of notions, or you're just doing what you're doing? You're not caring about the trends or what's going on with YouTube?
There's two sides to me with it. One, if someone gets a huge amount of success on YouTube, I will always be the first to congratulate them. That's great. We're very lucky to have the amount of success we have at any age. There's people that come to me all the time who are either 15 or 45, and they ask me, and I'm sure you get the same question, Rich, how did you get the following? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm a jackass and I got lucky, and I'm very grateful for it. But the thing I can say, and I'm sure you've noticed this too, Pat, and I look at numbers purposely because, well, it's my business and kind of I'm curious to see what trends are out there. But I would say, save for PewDiePie and a couple others, because PewDiePie has had a pretty decent run. His run is still going now. A lot of times when these guys blow up because they have a younger audience, that younger audience goes through phases like that. And 1 year, they'll be getting 3 million views a video, and then the next year, they could barely muster 50,000. Because that audience, and I even see it with like my fiance's daughters, that they're totally into a YouTuber. Oh my God, he or she, that I watch him every day, and like a month later, it's like, yeah, I'm done. So that audience, that younger audience that watches a lot of those bigger YouTubers, if you notice a lot of those bigger YouTubers, there's one I'm thinking of now, Leafy is here, for example. They could post literally anything, it would got 10 million views, and maybe even 6 months later they're losing subscribers like crazy, and that same kind of video won't even get like 100,000 views. So it's
why do you think it's just a sort of a more fickle younger audience?
Yes,
that are just trending towards, this is popular now, I know other people like it, so I have to watch it too.
Yes,
it's like a pop group, like a pop singing group, like I hate to say like NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. It's like it bursts onto the scene, you get tired of it within a year, and you're like, okay, what's next?
Yes.
What's the next pop trend? That's interesting. See, I always hear about Leafy and what's going on with him, and then you hear about the drama between him and other YouTubers, and then I wonder if that sort of brings part of the downfall.
I'm sure that helped too. But there's even other YouTubers I've noticed that didn't get involved in like a spat like he did. And there was a time where they could literally upload anything, and like it would get honestly 2 or 3 million views. I wish. And then now they're getting 400,000 views, and it's going down. It's with that younger audience. You're the flavor of the moment, and once they're done with you, they move on really quick. Whereas one thing I've noticed with our audience, because you have a similar audience that I do, is they're older. So to get them to click that subscribe button, they're much more reluctant to do it because they're not just following a trend. They want to know that they like your shit. So we may not get the same amount of subs, but that click means a lot more on the sub button when we do get one. Generally, I mean, I'm sure I know I have younger followers too, but the older ones are like, yeah, I actually like your content. I will come back to it. Whereas like, okay, my friends at high school like it, so I'm just going to click for the hell of it.
So it's the slow burn versus, just the fireworks that go off brighter and then they're gone in a moment. I still wish I can just put up anything and get 400,000 views. That'd be nice.
I wish, like that's the thing with Leafy, because like I said, I look at numbers of all the people because I'm curious to see them. He still gets 14 million views a month, man. I wish I was getting 14 million.
Yeah,
I wish my dying channel was getting 14 million views a month.
He can die out and still do more than me ever if I'm around in 20 years. So
he could die out and still buy a Ferrari with cash. So what was him?
I think my highest ever was like 4 million in a month. And that was back when I was doing way more podcast segments per podcast, where it was like 20 to 25, which was insane. I'm not sure how me and Ian did that. So it was a lot more videos. Like I've seen people try to say, "Oh, Pat, your channel's dying," when it's just the number of videos I put out has just gone down. It's the number of views per video is pretty much the same. It's just I'm putting out less content because I just can't physically do it.
And something with
range anymore.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. And something with YouTube has changed too. I mean, my channel's kind of been on an incline again, but there was a time like it was almost like a switch got flipped. And, like one day my numbers were doing this and this, and all of a sudden it was like boom. And I think a lot of other people noticed it too. And we still haven't gotten a straight answer from YouTube as to what was up with that.
Well, I wonder if there is I don't want to say an ageism part of YouTube, but does it make sense for YouTube to promote videos where they know it's a smaller audience overall? So if we have an older audience, which is much less of what the YouTube audience is overall, does it make sense for Google to push our videos, because they know that even if they pushed our videos as much as a 20-year-old YouTuber, our audience would not grow at the same rate as theirs no matter what? Maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's just purely a business decision. It doesn't make it right. I'm just saying that's the cold analytical part of me thinking that's what it could be.
Oh, YouTube's a business. They're there to make money. Like any other corporation. We're part of the corporate. Whether we realize it or not, because we're at home, I'm drinking coffee and have beards. We're still part of the corporate world, whether we want to be or not.
Sure, it's a different part of where we control our own destiny, which is why I like it, because even if I'm working 55 hours a week now or 50 hours, some weeks, yes, some weeks it's probably 40 or normal, I'm at least doing what I want to do. I can stop this at any time. I could change direction at any time. I don't have to be at the whims of stock prices of IBM or an acquisition that puts me out of work, or a merger that says, oh yeah, we're going to do synergy. And it's like every merger in the history of the world results in job losses. I always just like to hear that. That's an aside. I don't want to talk about the awful corporate life. But I think that YouTube is interesting just because we are also at the whims of, again, like what are the algorithms change and who do they favor this month. But at the same time, it's a free platform for us. So whenever I see people come out and rightfully say there's issues with YouTube, this is bullshit, how much of a right do I personally have to complain about it? I wonder. This is a philosophical sort of debate I have with myself. I'm not paying a service, a fee to use this. Yes, they're taking part of my ad revenue.
I was about to say, they are taking some of your money, not a good amount of your money, not some, but a good amount.
Sure, but they're not making money off of YouTube, Google. They're still, for last I heard, they're still not in the black on the platform because they're letting anyone use it. So just think about how much money it takes for all that bandwidth and storage. So I'm like, how much can I really complain at the end of the day? I can complain, yes, but without it, this is the only platform that survived. Rever died. Blip never turned a profit through multiple rounds of investments, corporate investment. So
God, Blip.
This is... Yeah, well, Blip, I was off of YouTube, not off YouTube, but I would post a Blip for a while because remember back in the day when it was hard to get partnered, I wasn't partnered officially partnered and making money off of YouTube videos until like late 2013, I think.
2011 for me. It's funny how I kind of I was on Blip because I was on that guy with the glasses. That's when I did more reviews. I was on there.
I had no idea you were on there.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh, that's funny. I thought you knew. Yeah, I was on there for a while. They had like some kind of contest or like whatever it was. Like I had to like almost audition, and I sent them a Halo review, and I ended up getting on. I was on that guy with the glasses, and then they moved the more gaming-oriented content over to Blistered Thumbs for a while.
That I remember, sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. My experience, not to say too much behind the scenes, I remember I applied to that guy with the glasses pretty early, back when they were probably near their zenith, 2010, and remember being told, first they ignored me, but then they said, yeah, your stuff isn't good enough for us, and that was
Did they really?
It was fairly, not overly insulting. It wasn't from Doug himself. Doug doesn't really run the business. It was from one of the other two people that do. I don't take it super personally, but I just look at it as, if you look back at that, out of all those that guy with the glasses people, out of the 50 or 60, only about 3 or 4 have remained successful, while the rest are basically been forgotten for the most part. So I'm like, all right, that was their decision at the time. What am I going to do about it?
Which is
like
funny.
Hollywood rejection.
Because that's funny, because I thought, and I'm just saying this objectively, no brown nosing at all. Like, I thought your content back then was better than mine. You know what I'm saying? And again, that's not me trying to, I'm just saying, like, I compare it, and mine was not that great.
Well, I'm not telling tales out of school, but that was a very cliquish site. And I think, I'm not sure if I haven't even paid attention to the site, but at the time you basically had to know people to get in, so to speak. So all my experience with that at the time was just being told by, it was funny because even though I was rejected, when I would go to conventions, people like Linkara knew my work. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, Linkara's a big guy. And then people like, rest in peace, Justin Carmichael.
Oh, yeah, well, I forgot about him. Wow.
Knew my work. And whenever people like Benzai, they would be like, they would just say they were shocked I wasn't on the site. And this isn't me trying to have an ego. This is just I'm just saying what actually occurred. But that model changed. That sort of model of let's all band together as a conglomerate, whether it's that guy with the glasses, Blistered Thumbs, Retroware TV, which I helped run for about 2.5 years. That sort of focus changed. Screw Attack, it shifted to, now let's go back to YouTube and do our own thing, because that's where the major exposure is. And that happened around, I want to say, 2013, 14 for good, where I don't see it going back to this, normal boots, like no one bothers with the website. They know the people that were on it, but the website doesn't get, traffic. Because why have to get off of a YouTube platform to go to a website? That's just a change I've seen in the industry.
Well, yeah, that was before, like you said, YouTube was more lenient with partnering, and that's why people would band together and go on. And Blip too actually was giving, without obviously going into numbers because we can't. Blip was giving actually better ad revenue, which I heard in the end was part of the reason that they died, because they were giving creators too much money.
I can give numbers. I'm not under any NDA. So there was one Christmas, Blip died out. What was it, 2015?
I think it was around then. Yeah.
I think the height was like December 2013. I'm not sure why. They might have had another round of investments. The CPMs were like $25 to $30 for that month. It was insane. So at the time, someone like me, I'm not making money on YouTube, and I'm trying to, I still have my day job at the. No, let's see. I'm trying to remember. No, I still I quit my day job in 2012, but I'm still trying to build it up and make money. So I couldn't afford to put the stuff on YouTube if I wasn't making any money. I had to get income. So for me, which hurt me in the long run, because I could have built my audience better with YouTube. But yeah, the CPMs were insane. It was like, wow, if this is what it was on YouTube, we'd all be a lot more wealthier. Which I always think is funny. People think you're wealthy just because they think your channel's quote unquote big, when it doesn't necessarily always translate into money. I just think that's always funny. No, it doesn't.
No, it really doesn't.
For a lot of factors. But no, Blip was just throwing dollar bills at everyone. Like, they were just burning through money, and obviously they did. And that was the height of it.
I bet you they did that because they thought they were going to entice more creators to come on, but in the end...
absolutely. Remember, they got that deal with Ray William Johnson, had him come on. That was it was funny because that was like 6 months before he had the dispute with, I don't know if it was Polaris or at least Maker at the time. He goes to Blip. Blip gets bought out then by Polaris anyway, or Maker. So he came back to it.
Oh my God, yeah, you're right. Oh my God, isn't that ironic? Yeah.
Yeah, then at that point, Blip was not long for this world, especially then after Disney buys Maker. Disney's like, this Blip is garbage. But even before that point, they were shutting down the smaller Blip channels. Blip was accepting basically anyone. But then Blip basically cut all the people they knew weren't making money or getting views out. Which is, I actually got an email from Ustream. Remember Ustream? Ustream's doing that now as well. Ustream basically said, yep, you're not using your channel anymore. You're not making us any money, so based upon our new agreement, you're out. Which, that's fine. I haven't used Ustream in years, since the NES Marathon like 4 years ago. But it's a tough model, obviously, with video platforms, getting advertisers, bandwidth issues. Every time I see these new ones pop up, they don't last. YouTube's the only one that lasts. So again, how much can I complain if they're the stable one and they're the one that's probably going to be around 30 years from now, when all is said and done? I don't know. Going back to that issue.
I think you're right, but I will say this. If people don't complain, issues that need to be addressed may never be addressed.
Absolutely. So, I absolutely see that.
And that's where I'm like, it is the thing. Like, imagine us having to have the storage at our house for all the videos that we have. We would be bankrupt. In the end, yes, I do appreciate that. And they aren't charging us to use their storage. But at the same time, if there's YouTube's doing something that's ridiculous or dumb that should be addressed, I think it should be called out. I'm not saying be demanding and have complain about every single aspect, but at the same time, if there is issues, they should be, I guess you could say, held their feet to the fire for them if it's something that's ridiculous.
Absolutely, I'm not being a corporate just saying we should not question it. What I'm saying is I think it has to be fair, and it has to be directed smartly. It has to be like focused. It can't just be, well, fuck YouTube, fuck them, they're doing this, and it's like that's not helping anyone. And it's like, well, if it didn't exist, no one would know who you are. Not saying you personally, but like the you person
in general. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
So you mean don't be like DSP Gaming then, where he tells fuck YouTube like on a weekly basis?
I'm not. You know what? It's funny. I always hear about DSP Gaming here and there. And other YouTubers saying, I'm just going to say other YouTubers said this guy is cancer and terrible. I'm not going to say who's told me that, but I'm not really familiar with the guy. To be honest, I'm not overly familiar with his content. I'm just not.
There was a time, and I'm not going to go off on a Phil tangent, that he
Why you explain? I'm going to put on my beard butter that my girlfriend gave me.
Beard butter, man. Maybe I actually probably should use that shit too, because that's when my girlfriend complains that my beard is like sandpaper. But Phil, there was a time that he was like the Let's Player of YouTube, where like his videos were doing insane amounts of views, and he just made a bunch of dumb choices. We're going off on a Phil tangent, but anyway, he made a bunch of dumb choices, and he fed too much into the trolls, even more than my stupid ass has in the past, to the point where like he's just become a meme. His videos that get made, the videos that are made to make fun of him get more views than his own videos. That usually doesn't happen. Like there's a thing with Phil that This Is How You Don't Play, where people make compilations of his videos because he's notoriously a fairly bad video game player. Which you could say the same about me. But like he does it as a living. He's a Let's Player, so you kind of shouldn't be bad. So there's these videos, This Is How You Don't Plays, and they actually, some of them get like 50, 60, 100,000, even more views. His videos get like 500 or 600 views.
So he's become, what you're saying is he fed into the negativity and became almost like a parody versus what he used to be. And this brings back to a conversation I had with you in person. One of the things I asked you about, I don't know if you remember, I was like, Rich, I see sometimes you addressing the negativity sometimes, or responding with videos directly, and that's what I remember saying. And you know, I was like, yeah, I kind of do it too much. I think there's always that line where you want to acknowledge your subscribers or people that are watching your videos without acknowledging that what they're saying has merit all the time, because sometimes it doesn't. And I think that's a hard pill for some people to swallow. But I want to get your perspective. Has there been a time where you put out a video and even almost immediately you're like, wow, why did I even bother addressing that? Or what did that accomplish?
Oh, countless. There's even a video I still have up on another YouTuber, which I think the guy has a dartboard in his house that he throws at my face every day with my face on it, I should say. And he like despises me because the video got like 300,000 views that I addressed him on, which...
But, so you addressed the fact that he had a dartboard? Is that how
I'm just saying he probably does have one.
Oh, okay.
He, the video I made on him, I'm not going to delete it or anything at this point. You know, the milk is beyond spilt. It has like 300,000 views, like I said.
Sure.
But, yeah, as I get, maybe I'm just becoming an old friggin' fart, too.
It's not worth it anymore. You're getting too old.
Yeah, it's just because what happens is that especially if it's if someone responds to you that's a larger YouTuber, and you respond back, whether it be angrily or just in a negative light, it just builds into a drama, and you create enemies that you didn't have before, because you know there's devout fans of virtually almost any YouTuber of any size out there, and then you like I just had to deal with an issue of a guy that was a stalker. You know what I'm saying? Like that just started to fade away like in the past few months. You know what I mean? So
a stalker that was a fan of another YouTuber, or just in general?
He just didn't like me. It's a long, painful. I probably should do another podcast with you later on it, because it was like it's just
now. Was that a result of you responding to negativity, you think, or it was just a random fluke thing? If you want to talk about it.
No, I'll talk about it, because that's one of the since we're talking about YouTube as a job, I guess you could say is one of the biggest downsides is that you're dealing with the public, you're in the public eye. People for some reason think that's a pretentious thing to say, but if you're talking to hundreds of thousands of people, that's what you're doing. You know, and that's one of the shortcomings of it. Is that sometimes you deal with mentally unstable people that you have issues with. No, it was a pain in the ass. He was actually, and it wasn't, his thing was, you don't like that I'm a critic. And I'm like, no, if you're a critic, this guy I just said, who the other guy who I made a video that had 300,000 views, he still makes videos on me, but he just is criticizing me. That's okay. You know what? You don't like me. Yeah, some of the stuff he says gets on my nerves, but
he's probably the same guy that tweeted at me in the past.
I'm sure it was. It's that weird. Yeah, it's him. You know, if you want to, I never flagged this one guy's videos, the one that's normal, that just, I made the video on him that he hates me now for, but he doesn't do anything personal beyond the video. So you know what, have at it. This guy was like messaging my fiance's friends on Facebook. He even tried to message like family members. My grandmother recently just passed away this past November, and he wrote something nasty on her where her can't think of it right now. Her eulogy was. It was on a website. He posted something nasty under it as a response. The guy was insane. Yeah. So I guess that's one of and that's the thing, is that with the internet, because you could just remember. I know who he is. That's why he's kind of backed away, because I have everything on him now. People were nice enough to get it to me proactively. But that's one of the things I think is the biggest drawback. I don't know what you've dealt with personally, but because
I haven't dealt, and I'm sorry to hear that. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's why. Yeah, Facebook. I always, you make sure that people keep theirs private, for only friends can see. I try to make sure that I tell people, hey, listen, just in case, you should have this, locked down.
That's what I do.
For example, Ian. Ian is, I would say, more open about mixing his public and personal life together. I am not. So he was always like, I have my Facebook and all. I'm not a YouTuber, but so he even got to the point pretty early where he basically went off of Facebook because of that. That's a whole other conversation about how he interacts with fans versus me, where I'm a little more guarded in terms of, you might know me and I might mention stuff that's personal, but I'm not going to just open up my entire personal life to you because of the risks, like you pointed out. There's always a danger there, because while 99% of people are okay with it, there's always a 1% that'll either try to abuse it or use it to their advantage or exploit it. And that's just the reality. Hollywood is the same thing, or anyone. Music, there's always 99% of fans are okay, but there's that 1% that there's something wrong. Where there might be something, or even less 1%. You know what I mean, though. So now I'm rambling. What was I going to say? But
no, it's definitely it's the downside. Like, and the thing is that less than 1%, because they're so diligent, it feels like it's an army of people sometimes.
Sure, but that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. So, but in terms of, that's why overall responding to specific individuals, I try to steer clear of, because while the drama might give me bigger and brighter views, I'm not talking about something that happens with PewDiePie or Colin Moriarty or JonTron, which I'll probably talk about in the next podcast with Ian. I'm talking about people that have personally come after me, or there's a one YouTuber in particular that's made it. He's a sick individual, and he's a fairly big YouTuber that's said a lot of stuff about me behind the scenes and tried to damage me, that I have not really overtly addressed because I figure there's no point.
Yeah, it's smart.
And he's a person that's already fermenting the trolls behind the scene to try to come after me and Ian. So why feed into that person individually? It won't resolve anything. It's a waste of my energy and time, and obviously it won't change their behavior because that person is obviously already gone to an extent. So that's the way I look at it. And in general, the negativity, I just sort of be like, I always look at it as like the Yelp reviews or even online reviews, is that the people that are most likely to respond are the people that are angrier.
Yes.
In terms of, so if I'm a balanced individual and I don't have 18 hours a day to watch and comment on videos, I probably won't comment even if I enjoy it. How many YouTube videos do I personally think a percentage where I watch and enjoy it? How many verses I comment on? Probably less than 5%, if that. I'll actually take the time.
Even less, yeah.
So think about the individual that not only is commenting on almost every video, but then by and large is being extremely negative. Why should I bother with that sort of person? That's not a person that really supports me personally or is going to be watching out for me. They're not a person that is going to come out to a convention and probably say hi to me and be a nice person, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really how I look at it. Like, who are the people I'm really doing my work for? And it's that person that's going to take the time to come out to that Jersey convention and see us. I can't think of negative interactions I've had with fans in person or followers in person. Probably I can count on one hand the amount of negative interactions and me going to conventions for like 6 years.
Well, because that's generally because most of the people are good people. It's just that for someone who's psychologically unstable, they're I hate using this term because again I'm going to sound like someone else, but they're mentally ill. There's something wrong with them. They probably either should be seeking help or on some kind of medication. The internet's a perfect breeding ground for them to be anonymous and be as hateful and demented as they want to be. And that's really what we're trying to bring up here is one of the biggest downsides of doing YouTube is that, when I've worked in retail before as well.
So have I.
When someone is a jackass, you know who that person is. And most of the time, minus a couple exceptions, which I probably should make a video about because they're pretty entertaining. Most of the times, they may be confrontational, but usually it just ends like right then and there because there's that accountability because they're face to face with you. Some of this stuff that I'm not a violent person, I'm sure you're not, but some of the stuff that people say to me, they probably would be afraid that I or someone else would knock them the hell out if they said it to you in person. But I don't think it's even a totally a physical threat. Not even physical.
I think they have never been held accountable in any form for what they've said. So even if they came up to me in a convention and say, "Hey Pat," even if they said something half as vile as some of the comments I've seen about me or Ian, they're not expecting some sort of counter, even something to put them in their place, even verbally,
yes,
let alone physically. I think that's what it is. Like you said, it's a form of cowardice. Absolutely.
And they don't want to be known as that, and even beyond, and I was going to say, not even a physical thing, but also as well, if you're known as that guy who's, says the nasty things or girl that says those nasty things, society will look at you differently, and people don't want to be held accountable in that way either.
Sure.
So, whereas online, it's like, wow, I could be the true piece of shit that I really am, and I could say horrible things, and it keeps me from killing myself, so I'll make someone else feel miserable.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Or or like on Randy on South Park, not Randy, Kyle's father on South Park. It's just sort of it's an outlet. It's a fun hobby. They look at it as it's just something I do for fun. Which again, you and we don't see that because we actually have to do work and run our quote unquote businesses to have time to be a shit poster, as it's called, or whatever. It's just not something that clicks with us, I guess. But for some people, it does. And I do recognize there are those people that when I see some of the comments, and I try to read some of them, I don't have time to read all of them, where I can see if they're being a little nasty, they're at least trying to be humorous, versus the people that are out and right just being nasty.
Headful. That's the thing. A shit poster to me is someone that's just a dumbass. I technically am a shit poster, especially on Twitter. I write dumbass shit on Twitter all the time. But
I've seen it.
And then there's I'm sure you have. I write ridiculous stuff on Twitter. Which the shit poster I have no issue with, unless you get super duper spammy, then that's different. But like, then there's the troll that's that hateful person that wishes like death on you. It's like, if that's enjoyment on your spare time, there's something seriously wrong with you or lacking in your life. If you want to wish death on somebody, there's something wrong. You know, but anyway, but that's what we're trying to say is that that's one of the biggest downsides, is that you deal with anonymous psychos on the internet.
So do you police your comments that much? Like do you try to block the terrible ones, and you don't?
I did for like a month, like back in like 2013 when I first, because I didn't really start doing this full time until summer of 2013.
Okay.
And then I was just like, no, I'm not. I would have to sit there and I would 23 hours a day police my comments. So no, if you want to tell me that I'm a fat shit and I should shove a cucumber up my ass, then go ahead.
Do you think I hate to say this, Rich? I think I brought this up to you a little bit when I saw you in person. Do you think now that's part of your brand? In terms of that's
whether
part of the experience?
Whether I want it to be or not, it's about the cucumbers.
So
yes.
part of the appeal now of people watching your videos, I hate to say it, isn't so much of what you're saying. It's now seeing the responses to your videos.
No, you're 110% right. There's people, I've seen them in the comment section, and it's not really, but I just really don't give a shit. Yeah, even the nasty, vile comments, I'm like, all right, man, if that makes you feel better, God bless. But like, yes, there are people that have said that they look at like, I come to your videos. Now, people said I think your videos suck. I come to your videos to look at the comments, which I'm like, hey, man, you're watching? Like, that's fine. If you think I suck and you just like to see the train wreck of the comment section, then, have at it.
Oh, man. So you can never get away with it like how PewDiePie did for a while and turning off your comments. That would really hurt you. Yeah,
I'm also not a pretty long-haired Swedish boy, too, so I'm sure that has something to do with it.
That's interesting, because I never considered that. I was always going to be like, all right, if I do a little bit of the work now, people realize then this is not how I could leave comments on a Pat video. I can't be saying you should get the shit kicked out of you, or I wish you get cancer and AIDS. That doesn't really happen anymore because they realize they're going to be gone. So maybe I've been hurting myself. Maybe I should have went the ReviewTechUSA route, let all the shit get posted and all the garbage, and that would bring more people.
You know what
I
never thought about that. You know what I noticed too, and your path may have been right and mine may have been wrong. Is that it has
not according to our views and followers? It hasn't. You've been on the right track.
Well, because I've noticed though they've just faded. Yeah, I still get dumb like cucumber comments, but that's kind of my choice. I did that. I sat there and ate a cucumber and smacked it across my face in an unboxing video. People don't forget things like that. Yes, that's where it started from. But I have noticed that the vileness has decreased naturally by itself.
Really?
And that's why in the beginning, like, I policed it, and then I noticed it started to fade. I'm like, you know what? Because people just kind of just, like, get over it, minus some, like, the devout ones. But most
they grew up and went to college, you think?
Or they're like, yeah, I mean, how many times can I tell Coleridge a fat fuck and tell him to kill himself? I'm just going to watch his videos and that's it. So I've noticed that, like, maybe because I just don't address it at all and, quite frankly, don't give a shit, that it's kind of just slowly... I mean, it's still there. You go look at my videos. There's comment sections that are trained. Like, I just uploaded a video about the AMD computer I'm on right now and the fanboy war start. But that is what it is. That's YouTube,
Interesting. Mm-hmm. And your views have stayed the same, everything else. But the comments you're saying have gotten a little bit more civil.
Yes, they've naturally...
So maybe that isn't a part of your brand. And maybe those people were using ad block anyway, so it doesn't matter,
you always have the people, I'm proud to use ad block. I'm like, okay.
I always think it's funny because the dirty secret is that people using ad block doesn't affect shit at this point because there's not nearly enough ads that go around on YouTube.
Yeah.
And YouTube could put an end to that anytime they want to and make it where instead of watching a video, it'll just say a screen, turn off your ad block or else you can't watch the video. They can do that. They have the power to do that.
I think Hulu does that. I actually think because I used to have ad block a while back. And you would go to Hulu, they're like, yeah, you're not watching anything. Like it says,
for the free Hulu.
You have ad block on. Nope.
Which is their right. They could do that. So I think that's when you know that I think YouTube is going to be sort of taken over from TV when they get all those advertisers where they get, all right, now instead of every third video where you see an ad, every single video you see an ad, and then now they're going to be losing money if they don't place those ads, that's when YouTube will care. But right now, it's like, well, it doesn't matter right now. The fill rate's not close to even being 50%. So go ahead, use your ad block and think that you're beating the system, you're beating the man, when you're really not. At least for YouTube, it doesn't really matter.
And doesn't YouTube have like deals with all the ad block companies where certain ads are considered acceptable and like? So yeah, it's not. I remember reading articles like there's like a couple different ad blocks. There's AdBlock Plus and another one. And I think it was AdBlock Plus where they like Google worked with them and said like, okay, we accept these ads. These ads aren't spammy, and AdBlock Plus lets those ads through. So that's probably why YouTube doesn't give a shit either. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. But all I know is that again, if it was affecting their bottom line, they would have done something about it right now. Because again, it's not a company that's really making Google money. So until you're actually hurting them, then they'll respond. So maybe that might not be happening for like 3, 4, 5 years. It might never happen. You know, I do see though getting to the point where advertising will mature more, where advertisers will, like how it works with TV. Like if you buy TV advertising right now, it's not just, well, I'm going to buy it and you can put the ads wherever you want for the channel. It's like, no, I want it on the 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock on these specific shows. That's where I'm buying ads for. Or I'm buying ads during Monday Night Raw on USA, because that's the audience I want. We're not there yet where you can have advertisers, and I don't think it's even set up. And eventually it probably will be more even probably automated, where like, okay, I want these set of 20 YouTubers. That's where I want my money to go, to them. Where it gets to the point where it's more analog with TV. Right now, it's more of a shotgun effect, where you buy ads, maybe even for a network itself, an MCN, but it's not tailored specifically, quote unquote, to many YouTubers. However, I do hear though that there are YouTubers that get a decent amount of views, that their fill rates and then CPMs are a lot lower because they have been sort of not blacklisted, but there are certain YouTubers that advertisers have shied away from. In general. Well,
I just heard that Nissan wanted to do that with PewDiePie with the whole thing that he had happen to him. Nissan's like, yeah, I don't want my ads on a PewDiePie video.
And again, and we'll get into that in terms of the pros and cons of YouTubers being in the spotlight for the probably wrong reasons at times. And that's more, I think, I didn't see both your videos about the PewDiePie situation. I came out from a different angle than you.
I had your angle in the beginning, though. I had your angle in the beginning. I'll give my take on it. You give yours, and then we could.
Oh, sure. I kind of know what your take about his videos being distorted in the context, but go ahead first.
Yeah, basically what it was is that I saw Wall Street Journals, and someone else said, maybe Polygon had an article. Not sure if it was them, but I saw a few articles.
Polygon ran one, and a couple others. And before you talk about my video, I actually didn't see all the quote-unquote hit pieces about his work. When I recorded my video, the biggest thing was just the Wall Street Journal story that ran. That was mainly what I was talking about with my video, which I got a ton of hate for because my video came out 2 or 3 years later. But anyway, go for it.
That's basically when I saw the articles, that was initially what I saw. I mean, I watched some of PewDiePie stuff, but not all of it. So when I saw what I was fed, I was like, oh shit, this is terrible. I don't really know what else the context could be. Then I saw H3H3 Productions video, and he showed more like behind the edits that Wall Street Journal did, and it was a totally like it just shows how manipulation can make something seem totally different than it was. Like there was one video where he was talking about how everyone's like saying that he was racist or something like that, and he was saying, and it's not true. He says it, and then he puts on the Hitler outfit, like showing how people portray him. It wasn't him just being like, yeah, I'm a neo-Nazi. I'm just going to sit here in an SS outfit watching Hitler videos. He was saying that people were looking at him like that, and it's not true. And he's like, this is how people perceive me. So I'm like, ooh, man, yeah, that's
absolutely
totally different.
Oh no, and I see that. My perspective of it was, why go to that extreme to make very simple points that you can make otherwise? I looked at it as an example of it was a laundry list of jokes he made all about a particular target. And if I want to get really technical, I didn't have time. Anti-Semitism, is that racism? To me, not. It's somewhat different. And the fact that this guy made it his calling card to be the butt of his jokes over this extended period of time was very telling to me, and I think he was playing with fire. Obviously, he was, since it's hurt him financially. But I think the biggest point I was trying to make, which people wanted to focus on me saying, well, you didn't call out Polygon and other sites like that. First of all, it's not my job to do that. And second of all, my point wouldn't have changed. And
plus, Polygon calls themselves that all the time because anyway. That's
yes, well, that's the
thing.
It's not my job to hold sites I already think are bad accountable. It's a YouTuber story to me first and foremost. But the death to all Jews and the Hitler was right jokes showed just, I thought, and not, I don't want to say insensitivity, because my point, and it was same with Ian, was that he can do whatever joke he wants to. But the reality is that he doesn't have the expertise to do those jokes, have them be clear, have an actual point to make with those jokes. And plus, he is catering to an immature, by and large, and younger audience. Even though they might have grown up, they're still younger. So they might not even get the joke he's trying to make, that he even himself admitted.
They would understand the context, yeah.
Yes. So to me, it was a little more complicated than these guys were going after him. And there's a fear between, quote unquote, the mainstream media and YouTube in this war, which I don't entirely agree with that point as well, which is Colin Moriarty spoke about that. Well, I can talk about that separately. But my point that I probably didn't make as well is that PewDiePie is the standard bearer for all of us, for better or for worse. And he has hurt all of us. You can say, well, maybe they shouldn't have dropped his Google preferred ads. I'm surprised he ever had Google preferred ads to begin with, because he's not family friendly and almost has never had been. But like you said, he had a major deal drop from him. He had a deal dropped with the Scare PewDiePie Season 2. It's a dangerous place right now where these advertisers I'm trying to talk about to get on board are looking at these rogue personalities that they can't. I'm not saying they should be able to control what we do, but I think they're scared. I think of jumping
I've
into
talked
bed.
about this before. Yeah,
yeah, and not just with him. There was that big JonTron, the Star Wars videos from 2000 before Episode 8, 7 came out. So that was 2015, right? So he had several videos that came out throughout the year. My sources, Rich, tell me that was behind the scenes a disaster in terms of him and Maker and Disney never seeing eye to eye, and that there should have been somewhere between 2 to 3 dozen videos that were supposed to have come out throughout the entire year, and instead it was like 6 or so that came out because it never happened. So they took a huge bath on that, Disney. We're talking the biggest entertainment empire on planet Earth, arguably. Now looking at a YouTuber deal where it's like, wow, this didn't go well for us. How likely will I go back to a YouTuber and do a deal now? How likely will I entrust this guy that has no PR firm? He doesn't have a manager to make sure he doesn't spout off about, going on some guy's stream on Twitch and talking about immigration. You see what I'm trying to get at? That this is something that doesn't affect necessarily even PewDiePie as much, because PewDiePie is set. He doesn't have to work again a day in his life.
I think he's worth like $250 million, like $250 million or something like that.
Whatever he's worth. Yeah. I mean, Forbes said he probably made 12 to 15 million last year. Maybe not $250,000, but he's worth tens of millions at least. You know what I mean? So he can do whatever he wants and has any fear. How about the smaller YouTubers that are still working these deals and they're not maybe set yet? This could affect us long term. Not necessarily us as in me. I'm not going to get a Nissan deal. But what if there's a YouTuber, I don't know, someone like, Andre Meadows, Black Nerd Comedy, someone who's the middle class of YouTubers. So we're in the middle class. We're probably lower middle class, but we're definitely middle class, where we may not ever see those deals, or they're going to be shied away. Stuff like the Game Jam fiasco from a few years ago. Right? That was a disaster.
I remember hearing about that, yeah.
So we have these big advertisers, Mountain Dew, Disney / Star Wars, Nissan, that are now pulling away from all of us. And I'm not saying that PewDiePie doesn't have the right to do whatever he wants. I don't think he has a care in the world, though, to curtail his own behavior and think about what he's doing. And maybe that's what I probably should have more said about it, that he's actually affecting all of us. That's something that Casey Neistat said. He came out and said, when you're on top, maybe you should think about being the ambassador. And I had issues with Casey Neistat and his "let's call out YouTubers that aren't saying to vote for Hillary" videos. I thought that was misguided.
Yeah, I agree.
And Ian agreed with me. But I think Casey has a point to an extent where, not saying you choose to be the ambassador, but once you get to a certain point, all eyes are on you and what you are doing. And PewDiePie had been in the news multiple times before, the Fiverr videos. So if he didn't expect that reaction to happen, he was either naive or stupid. It was one or the other. So it'll be interesting to see going forward. Obviously, he doesn't care. I've seen him post other stuff, joking about anti-Semitic stuff. So now he's just thumbing his nose at everyone. I think that's where he's at, which, again, that's his right to do that. But I just think it was more careless versus being outright. I never said the guy was a neo-Nazi or anti-Semitic. I just thought it was careless and hack, to be honest. And that was my perspective about it.
Well, the interesting that you nailed something on the head is that, yes, user-generated content and websites like YouTube and on-demand video and streaming and going through the internet is the future. But advertisers realize they have to embrace it, but they hate it. Because guess how many people proof watch my work before I upload it? Nobody. There's like where you have a TV show, you have writers, you have a producer, you have the corporation like NBC behind it. There's so many different filters that content has to go to before it hits the screen. So advertisers and corporations, when they place ads, they feel more comfortable because they know that they can control the content more. Whereas,
well, they know the track record. So if I'm advertising on Walking Dead, I pretty much know the content of The Walking Dead.
Yes, and it's not going to stray. Whereas if once I'm done here, I'm like, you know what? I want to put up a video of me smacking my hairy bare ass like bongos. Who's going to stop me from doing it? And if Nissan, which I'm sure they do have ads and stuff on my videos, is like, holy shit, I don't want that. Can someone stop him? There's no one to stop it. So that's the thing. Where were we going to say?
No, I was going to say, but they can get you beard butter for your ass hair. So they can.
So one bridge will be burnt to lead to another one. But I think, though, that all kidding aside, is that's the biggest. That's why we're still seeing where YouTube can't land those big fish, those big advertiser fish, because of the fact that they're like, even your biggest content creators, there's no one controlling them. We have no idea what they're going to upload. Yeah, sure, they have a kind of content and a genre, but they could say whatever they want to, and there's no producer. There's no one to stop them. And I think that's why we haven't seen like the typical legacy advertisements come to YouTube yet, because they're just too afraid to do it because they can't control the content creators they post their ads on.
The only thing we've seen is the directly sponsored videos, which is advertisement, and they usually have to get approved to make sure that, hey, you're actually reviewing the game or talking
I've
about
done
the
a couple
product,
of those too. Yeah, they will be like, do not make that. I've had advertisements or like companies come to me and they, could you make a dedicated video, and they'll want to check it. Like they'll say leave it unlisted or even make it private, and they'll check it first before I upload it. Yeah,
but that was interesting. Going back to the JonTron thing, because that I think was part of the deal. Remember, there was a Walmart advertisement that was with it where it shows JonTron walking into a Walmart and they have like a Millennium Falcon set up and they start playing. I think it was Battleground when it first came out. Or what was it? Star Wars, the third-person shooter. Was it Battlefront or Battleground? It shows me how
Battleborn. Maybe? I don't know.
Shows you how much I am up to speed on Star Wars stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so it showed him playing the game with these YouTubers. But that was the end of 2015, and that was the last mainstream big deal I've seen with a YouTuber. That was over a year ago. Unless I missed something where you saw like a major retailer or corporation reach out to a YouTuber and say, we want to work with you. That was it. And I hate to say it, I don't think JonTron's getting that deal again anytime soon. That was...
No, especially after all the other shit that happened, yeah.
Yeah, so... You said you brought up a great point that they don't know what's going on with these individual personalities. Like you said, today you could be calm, rich. Tomorrow you can go off the deep end, or say, "Hey, I want to talk about why this terrible thing in history was actually good for everyone." And they're gonna be like, "Whoa, wait a second here."
Which I have talked, which I'm sure is part of the reason why he's. My channel has maybe not has blown up the way it was even a couple years ago, is because I can be very controversial, and it's not that I try to be, it's just in my nature. And I know There's a sponsor that I won't name. Actually, it's funny. I was going to talk into a video about this today too. That because I was anti Anita Sarkeesian, they dropped me. They were like, "Yeah, we don't agree with your views. You're done." So yeah, it's.
But that's your brand, though. Your brand is speaking from your mind. Someone like JonTron, his JonTron videos, he has writers, he has editors, he has someone shooting the videos for him. At that point, he's mostly an actor in his videos and maybe contributes to the writing and direction in the video. So, it to me, it's almost tantamount to someone like Meryl Streep coming out and just bashing Trump, where that's not what you do for your day job, and now, it's not the same effect, though, but now we have to look at you in a different light, and the advertisers do as well. That, to me, is more of a stark contrast versus, all right, Rich, we know you're going to talk about controversial stuff, and now you're talking about an individual that we support. We're dropping our advertising. So I think we're in this weird ground now where you have YouTubers that have a big, huge audience. They have a bigger audience than a lot of celebrities do day to day, and they can reach that audience more quickly and say whatever they want unfiltered, which obviously is great for us. It's obviously great for us, but is that going to hurt us in terms of advertising in the future? I think overall, yes. It's not going to be as easy. You want to talk about, this is probably where we disagree somewhat as well, the mainstream media going after YouTubers and the quote-unquote war. How do you see what's been going on with, posting about, first it was PewDiePie and then Colin Moriarty. And I think there's differences to all these stories. I'm not going to say they're the same. The reaction might be somewhat similar, but I think the situations are totally different between PewDiePie, what he did, obviously, what Colin did with his small tweet, and then what JonTron did on that disaster of a 2-hour stream.
Well, I will say there's three things. PewDiePie, there's more of a gray area than there is in Colin Moriarty. I think the backlash he got over something so benign, like, it hurts my head. JonTron, I'm gonna watch that debate today in full because I don't trust articles, because articles,
sure.
Human beings, no matter how objective they try to be, there's always that where they put their emotions in it and they can't really help it. I probably could have worded that better, but you get what I'm saying. But Colin Moriarty, that was insane. He put up a tweet, I don't have it in the top of my head right now, where it was on a Woman's Day or something.
Yeah, he said, peace and quiet, hashtag a day without a woman. That's what he did.
And, he was just saying, look, I say it to my fiance too, like, sometimes the women like to talk a lot. That's all he was saying. There's no women today. It's quiet, because I know he has a girlfriend. My girlfriend's not constantly talking to me. That's all he was saying. Just like my fiance goes to me when I put a pot after I wash it in the wrong place. Oh, men are such dumbasses. Like, is it like offensive? Am I crying in the corner? No, it's like a half joking, oh, men are dumbasses kind of thing.
I think what the big difference between this and what PewDiePie did was, again, it was the scale. It was the fact that it was it wasn't a blatantly offensive thing to get a charge out of people. I thought it was just, this is a corny joke that you would see on Married with Children. This is going to be something that, it's like a hack joke, but it's a safe sort of like, take my wife, please, sort of thing. So that's the way I looked at it. And Colin was directing that first and foremost to his followers on Twitter. So unless you were a follower of Colin, you probably weren't going to see it until people went after him for it. And at that point, when people were going after him, that's when it blew up, and that's when you had more negativity about it.
Even if you don't understand Colin Moriarty, okay, we're good. This is regarding his tweet, by the way, depending on how Pat had to edit this because my machine almost imploded. Is even if you don't understand Colin Moriarty, you didn't understand the context, the tweet is still benign. Whereas with PewDiePie, as much as, the context was very important, and I believe it made what he said not as offensive when you understood what was behind it. Colin Moriarty's tweet, whether you took it at face value or knew, like Colin, and knew how his humor was, still wasn't offensive. Like, it was just like, it was almost as like, you could if you found it offensive, you must find offensive when people don't agree with you about the weather. Like, hey, it's supposed to rain today. No, I don't want it to rain. Why you got to say that? Like, there was nothing offensive about Colin's tweet, but yet it was turned into something about sexism, and there was really nothing there to it. And that's what kind of blew me away about it. And it got so blown out of proportion. I mean, you even had Greg Miller issue a formal statement about that tweet.
That's what bothered me the most about all of it. I'm a big fan of loyalty, especially to friends. Without loyalty, you have nothing. Like, there's no friendship. And I understand they were business partners, but to succumb so quickly to that crowd without thinking about it. And obviously, this wasn't the reason why Colin left. It was, by his own words and everyone else, it was sort of just the final, not straw, but this was the time. This is a time to make that division, Colin felt. Because if it wasn't going to be this, it was going to be something else, like Colin said, in the future. But I was just sort of taken aback by that response, and then Tim's response as well, where they, not saying they had to agree with what Colin said, but they had to stick up with the fact that he said it at all. Especially when I started watching their content the last couple of months here and there, and they don't, their show's not PC by any stretch of the imagination. They say edgy stuff.
Greg Miller admitted it in his letter. He's like, I've said some pretty edgy shit. So I'm like, wow, this isn't edgy at all. Why are you even? Oh, yeah.
So that's what I mean. And so that's what bothered me the most about that situation, where Ian and I are not the same person, which is one of the reasons I like our podcast, because we will disagree about 30% of the time on stuff.
Yes, you will. I've seen it.
So Ian has probably tweeted or said stuff on Twitter that I haven't agreed with, and vice versa. But you'll never see one of us go after each other for that, because what the hell does that say to everyone else then? Where your friendship isn't as strong enough to get past a little tweet, like that's going to be the straw that sort of breaks that. So that's what bothered me about that, and I really felt for Colin, especially when he went back on the Rubin Report with Dave Rubin. That when Colin starts to cry, basically saying that, you treated me like you knew me for years, and people I've known forever didn't. That was very telling. And that's not to say that was about Greg and Tim specifically from Kind of Funny, but man, it could have been. It could have been sort of an indictment of them, saying they should have stuck by me no matter what. Even if we were going to part ways, they should at least said, hey, guys, get over it. Because like I said in my analysis of it, that their choice was either if we condemn this, we're going to piss off people that didn't think it should have been condemned and people that support Colin and lose money. Or if we let it slide, people that are pissed off about that tweet might potentially leave. But their calculation so far has been incorrect, because there are two different Patreons, which is how they make their money. They don't get the views on YouTube to support them.
No, they don't at all.
Their two combined went from 55,000 in the past a week and a half down to 45,000 combined about.
Oh man, that's a big chunk.
They've lost roughly $10,000 a month, or $120,000 a year.
That's a lot of money for a small company to lose. Yeah.
And Colin, I even said congratulations to him privately. By the way, Colin was he privately even thanked me for my video, which I thought was classy. He didn't have to do that. Who the hell am I to Colin?
He thanked me too. That was really cool. Yeah, he did the same.
But his Colin was right. He got, let's see, what is he up to? 40? Is it 40,000? Oh, Colin's last stand. Excuse me. It's like $40,000.
And he hasn't even really posted any content yet. That's great.
No,
that's great.
So what I'm going to say is that I'm not saying that, some people that responded and felt slighted, they have the right to feel that way. But is the response to that worth their effort versus what the actual offense was? Like, is it?
No,
you can say, okay, so even if I said, okay, that you on a day to celebrate women, maybe that's not the best time to do that joke, even though I can see the point of view of that. But is your response equal to what the actual offense, what you thought was? Like, that's what it comes down to me. And I was bothered by that. It's $39,043 a month right now. $39,000.
Wow.
No, I'm saying that's Collins. Collins is 39,000.
Oh, I thought theirs was dropping. So okay.
Theirs has dropped 10,000. Collins gained almost 40. That's a $50,000 swing, basically, which is insane. So like I said, I'm gonna see where it goes. But what bothered me more though about the situation was all the other people from GameSpot. I saw Rooster Teeth and IGN tweet negatively at Colin about it. It was like their chance to gang up on him. That bothered me. I don't like when people gang up. I just don't like that.
Over something so stupid.
And these are people that knew him personally too. Like these people that either knew him in the industry or worked with him personally. And that was just like, all right, now that's to me that's backstabbing. That's bullshit.
Because it's all about, what bothers me too is that, well, yeah, you curse on your show. I was about to ask you. It's all about the fucking dollar signs. Because everyone's like, oh my God, this demographic's bigger, so whose ass do I have to kiss? I always bring this up because I lost my shit in my video with it. When Dead Rising 4 came out, okay, or was about to come out, and Microsoft tweeted, "Nya," to sound like a zombie, and people took it as they were saying the N-word. Microsoft, like, totally spread their butt cheeks and took it and, like, apologized and was, like, crying in a tweet. And there was nothing, it wasn't they were saying the N-word, they were just trying to sound like a zombie. You want to take the tweet down, I could kind of, I wouldn't have personally done it because I knew I wasn't being racist or offensive, but you want to take it down, you're a big corporation, I get that. But to apologize for something you did nothing wrong with, and that's what kind of like, I bet you that's what Greg Miller did. He's like, oh shit. Even if he didn't probably really find what Colin did offensive, he was like, I need to make sure I see the same amount of dollar signs. So I'm going to pretend that what he did was terrible.
Yeah.
And that's why I think other people disavowed him too, because they want to be like, I want to be on the side where there's more people, where in terms I get more revenue. So let me pretend to be, oh my God, I'm so offended.
It's a social justice revenge system. Where it's, social media revenge, where I think if like you actually saw Colin, would you have mustered the courage, or would it really offend you that much where you saw Colin in person and be like, this was bullshit? Or the one guy he used to work with IGN saying, is this the person you want to be? Or that really bothered me, or something like that.
I saw that.
Or would you rather say something like, okay, dude, even I don't agree with it. You shouldn't have done that. I know you personally, and I don't think you're a sexist. Like that to me would be the more reasonable response, even if you did find that to be somewhat offensive, which again, if you did, I'm not going to say your emotions are right or wrong, but I just think that your response, again, wasn't equal to the quote-unquote offense. And that's what always I think we should measure our responses by, is that how much is this really bothering us versus us trying to make some other larger point and using this person as an example, like what they unfortunately tried to do with James last year and did do, for him basically saying, I don't want to see Ghostbusters, the new Ghostbusters, because I don't think it looks good, and it's not connected to the other movies. And James was attacked by celebrities, Patton Oswalt, Samantha Bee, and I was in Norway at the time, and I was super upset because I know James is the most harmless person, nicest guy on the planet. And even people that I knew that were quote-unquote feminists and liberals, the reason ones were like, James had said absolutely nothing wrong. So again, I don't think you should even lump groups together like that. I just think there's always extremists. And this goes for everything. This goes for left and right, where if they see something where, oh, you censored this out of a game, how dare you, I'm not going to buy it. To me, that's just as bad as people being upset about, oh, there's too much cleavage in it. It's a similar dangerous way of thinking where they're seeing their way of life being attacked in one way or the other, where I think you just have to then shut those out and just bring it back to like the reasonable middle, where it's like, all right, let's take a step back and really see what's going on, and ignore the people that are yelling the loudest, because a lot of times they're not the ones that are reasonable because they're doing that, especially on social media.
What scares me too is that because of this outrage culture that we have now, which I feel like maybe over the past like 5-ish years has become even more aggressive, is you could say the smallest thing, whether even if it is offensive, and you're human, you made a mistake, or it's something like what Colin did, which in my opinion, even if you don't know him, shouldn't have been offensive. He's actually seeing a positive thing happen from it, but you could destroy your whole career because of a tweet, or because of, which there's some people that deserve it. If you're sitting there blowing lines off a table completely naked, that probably isn't a smart thing that you did. But if it's, you could say something harmless or do a tweet like Microsoft did for Dead Rising 4, and people will like consider you like public enemy number one, and your livelihood could literally implode over something that's completely harmless because people took it out of context, and that makes me so angry.
Well, again, it's sort of the same mentality going back to people that are going to say, you should get cancer and die of AIDS on a YouTube account. They want to be, these are people that, not always, I don't want to lump everyone together, because some people may honestly think that I am doing the right thing and I'm standing up for, what I think is blasphemy in my eyes, some sort of, like some crusade. Let's just say it's their crusade, which again, is that the right way to go about it? But I think there's some people that just want to be heard, because in their normal life, maybe they feel like they're silenced, or they don't feel like their opinion matters. And on social media, you do a tweet that gets traction. All of a sudden, you go from a nobody, and now 15 minutes later, your tweet goes viral or whatever, or gets all the retweets. Or it's your chance to jump in with this sort of cause of the moment, or make yourself maybe feel better even.
Yeah,
make yourself feel better. It makes yourself feel better jumping on this cause, rightly or wrongly, where all of a sudden it's like, all right, I showed him, I'm being righteous, I'm doing the cool thing. But I don't think they might realize how counterproductive that might be in the long run, because you are creating this division that may not need to exist, and then people are being marginalized for the wrong reason, and then maybe the people in the middle, the reasonable middle, might see you overreacting. And again, this isn't just like a left wing thing; it could be a right wing thing as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Where if you're going after the other side in an unreasonable fashion, the centrists or people in the middle will be like, wait a second, let's pump the brakes here a bit. Let's come back to reality and maybe save the anger for something that actually needs it or warrants it. And that's all I saw, and that's where I stand on that argument.
No, I'm
and
exactly
I know that
with you on that one.
But I know there's people I'm friends with and people I follow on Twitter that they won't disavow me because of me even saying this. And I think I'm being reasonable on this. But I have the paranoia now that, well, the fact that I even tweeted best of luck to Colin after he said he was starting his Patreon, they might see my tweet and say, well, fuck Pat, he's not on the side of what's right in this. And I hope we're not at that point. It's not like, again, my friends, it's not like Ian would say that. And I don't know Ian's thoughts entirely on the issue. But I know Ian wouldn't say "fuck you, Pat" because you did that. Because Ian's not like that. But there would be some people that would do that. And with a situation with James that happened, there's probably people that stopped talking to James because of that, because they saw the heat he was getting. And I feel bad for him because of that. Where it's just like they went after the person for, again, the wrong reason, and they used him to make a point about a fucking Sony movie. At the end of the day, you're helping Sony make money. It's like that's your cause. Is to make sure that Sony gets a bet, to make sure that this big corporation doesn't give a shit about you, doesn't really give a shit about women's rights. You're helping them make more money. I mean, that's really what it is.
It's interesting because it's you kind of touched on it before. You didn't touch on it. You actually nailed it on the head. Is that I really think whether it be feminists, whether it be people that are Republicans, whether they're Democrats, whether they consider themselves alt-right. Some people, if you even really think the alt-right exists. So people want to be in a group because they want to feel that sense of belonging. And what scares me about that is that people put their logic aside because they want to make sure their views tie in with their political party, because they want to make sure they have that sense of belonging. So instead of thinking logically about a political topic or Colin's tweet, it's, I consider myself a feminist, my friends are feminists, so I have to be insulted by it. And it's just, I don't know, man. And I think because of the internet, because everyone could be around the world, can be together, quote unquote, we're starting to see like more of that like extremism from all groups, not just feminists or Republicans or Democrats or left, right, or liberals. Everyone's getting like that because everyone feels so, I guess,
polarized.
Yeah, polarized, because they feel like they belong so much now.
Well, it makes the social media makes the louder people they're heard easier. And they're not necessarily the mainstream, though. They're just the people that are louder. And that's a political issue as well. When you see like the Tea Party take over the Republicans, when you see identity politics and say the more extreme people on the left take over the Democratic Party, it shrinks the moderates down, because they don't usually yell as loudly, because to me they're more reasonable and more likely to compromise. So groups like moderate Republicans, Blue Dog Democrats, which are the more moderate Democrats, for example, they don't exist like they used to anymore.
No, they don't.
Their bases have gone away because they don't yell. So what happens then? This is getting to a political conversation. What happens is, because those people still
ties
exist,
into video
they still
games,
have to vote.
It still ties into video games. We'll talk about that in a second.
But what happens then if they're forced out? Is there a third party that comes? Is there another group that the reasonable party will just say of the majority of the people that are in the center? Do they then decide, okay, we know we may not agree with everyone else in our group here, but at least we can talk to each other and converse and maybe come to some compromise or even agree to disagree even, which it always surprises me how people can't even agree to disagree about certain things where it's like, well, if I'm right, fuck you, you don't have to agree with everyone on every issue, but you can at least be civil if you disagree with that. Because if you're not at least civil, you'll never be able to coexist. And I think that's where what we're going to see, I think, in the next 4 years, not to get too political, is that with Trump, you're going to see it get worse, and then it might rubber band back together. Like, this is going to be the final break.
Because people are going to be like, oh, yeah, you were right. Trump is really a jackass. Okay. They'll be like, oh, wait, yeah, okay. Then they kind of come back down because they'll get off the dopamine high of actually Trump getting elected.
Yeah. We're still in the, like I talked about in my first podcast, talking to my father about he's glad Trump was elected, my father, because he hated Clinton.
So did
and
I.
It's like, that's the other issue, is that I've still yet to find someone who voted for Hillary, basically saying I voted because I like her versus I wasn't voting for Trump. That's a whole other conversation. It was an election of voting against the other person.
I disliked her just as much as I disliked Trump, to be honest with you. Not to keep political going, but I did.
Yeah, I didn't vote for either. So what's going to happen, I think, is that people are going to be like, okay, well, I didn't vote for Clinton because I figured that was going to work. So I voted more with my heart and voted for Trump because I thought he was going to change the system, cut it all down. And what happens when that doesn't occur? Because so far it's not occurring.
No, he's filling that swamp up, man. He's got more people from banks and Goldman Sachs and shit in his team than ever.
What's the difference between if Hillary got elected and filled her, her staff with the same sort of people in corporations, like you said, big banks? What's the difference? If jobs don't come back that Trump promised, what's the difference then? You know what I mean? Like, so we're going to get to that weird point where the people that voted for Obama, which they did, then voted for Trump, which they did, which is why Trump won in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio. What do they do then? Both sides failed them. What's their alternative? Are they finally going to go third party or then look elsewhere? I don't know. That's a question I hope gets answered in a positive way because we do need at least one other viable party. Or are you going to say, Rich, talking about the games? I'm going on a tangent now.
Well, no, because it ties to it, because this extremism with politics and sexism and feminism has bled over to video games to a point where I actually was I made a video on it, and I had Liana Kersner on, and we were talking about it where, you had Anita Sarkeesian complaining about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. When on top of it, one, I had my other buddy, Mundane Matt, prove that she didn't play the game because she didn't understand the context of the story. So it wasn't about a damsel in distress. And why are we even discussing it about The Legend of Zelda, which is a franchise that's been around for over 30 years? So now you have developers and story writers for the games industry now feeling confined because they're like, oh shit, I have to make sure I offend absolutely nobody. So what the hell do I do? So it's like this extremism with politics and everything has now bled over to video games, and that fucking sucks.
Well, I think the right response, though, is going to be when publishers just ignore it. So I don't see Nintendo bowing to that. They're like, no, we've made our games. No. You say what you will about Nintendo making bad decisions. When it comes to their artistic sort of vision, they're usually like, no, we're just going to do what we want. And just, and be in our little cave making our games that you're going to come out. And you may not like the game overall, but at least you know it's going to work. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to have, DLC out the ass, stuff like that. Which is why I love that Nintendo still exists, and why I'm glad that
to see the
they're going to be around forever.
Well. Yeah, the Switch is doing it.
No, I'm happy for that, just because it also then finally shut up people that are saying Nintendo should go third party. I don't know where you stood on that, but I got personally sick of people with no business experience saying Nintendo's doomed and here's why. And it's like, dude, this company's been around for 125 years. And yes, there are been companies that have been around for that long that have failed, but Nintendo has so much fucking money. And yes, the Wii U was a failure, but they've already course-corrected with the Switch just by advertising, which they didn't do with the Wii U.
And I was afraid they weren't going to do it. There was a time I was on the third-party boat when it was like we were deep in the black hole of the Wii U, and it was like the black hole known as the Wii U.
Yeah,
I was like, maybe
we're getting off a tangent.
Maybe it's a good tangent though. Maybe for their home console business, I know the 3DSs do. Maybe they should think about it. But I'm glad they didn't, and I'm glad I was wrong, because the Switch is fucking sexy, man. Like
I'm still looking for one. And they've like I said before back my other point about Anita Sarkeesian, they've shipped the perfect amount because it's March. You don't buy a new console in March usually. From what I heard, some stores got like 50, like Best Buys and Targets. That's a good amount for a March launch, and the scalpers aren't getting that much more than them, which shows you that the demand, while the demand is there, there's still enough that the scalpers haven't made as much as they did on the Wii. Like the Wii was like, $700
well, they're getting
when
decent
it came out.
replenishments. Like I know Toys R Us just got a replenishment. I know GameStop.
Did they really?
Yeah, they did.
I gotta call Toys R Us.
Dude, it's a good. Let me tell you something. This is coming from a guy who was like, I remember. I don't know if you. I did a video with my buddy Eric a while back, and I was just like, when I heard they were doing a hybrid system, I'm like, oh no. Like, what are you doing, Nintendo? You already tried something different with the Wii U. You struck gold with the Wii, but let's try to like do something where you could kind of compete more with the Joneses, so you could get you could have the awesome first party games and the third party games. But I think they still did it. Like you have this device. I don't know. Did you try the Switch? Have you tried it?
No, I haven't tried it yet.
Really. Minus one design flaw, which I actually made a dedicated video about. Everything else about it, like you take the system, you have the Joy-Cons, you slide them on 1, 2, 3, hold it as a portable system. It's actually really comfortable and light. You take those off, pop it back in the dock, comes right up on the screen, and you're playing the same game on your 60-inch or whatever size TV, and it's just seamless. And what blows me away is, as a guy, and I'm gonna get super techno nerdy right now. I have I have it right behind me. I don't know if anyone's going to see it because I think you're just doing audio. This is the NVIDIA Shield tablet. And NVIDIA kind of did the same thing, but it was really clunky. Like you had to hook up a separate cable for HDMI. Then you had to, and then you had to, do you want to do a console mode or mirror mode? And it was really like slow and clunky. Nintendo's like, yeah, we'll work with you, NVIDIA, but we could do it better. They found a way where you literally just do what NVIDIA tried to do. You just pop it in the dock and you have a home system and portable system that it just switches seamlessly in a second. And that just blows me away.
So they almost got there with the Wii U, but they had it in reverse. Now they fixed it. Where they're like, okay, now you can't take a Wii U on a plane. You can take the Switch on a plane. Like they were almost there with the Wii U. They had to go through one failure to correct. I was like, it's one of those weird things. Sometimes happens in business where you go through this decision, you're not there yet. You take a bath and then you hit it big, which they have. Getting back to the thing about the Zelda Nina Sarkeesian, you always have to watch out for. And this is not just people on the left, and this is also people on the right. There's people that came to prominence, like being pro Gamergate, where there's the people that I've found that like to insist on these culture wars that are going on, and sow the seeds are usually the ones that benefit the most from it.
Yes,
they're the ones that get the views. They're the ones that get the attention. They're the ones that make the most money off it. Whether it's YouTubers that'll constantly talk about. What did the liberals fuck up today? Or whether it's saying, this is being misogynistic. This is why. These are usually people that have carved out a niche industry for themselves. And it's great because they get to rail about what's going on without really providing any viable solutions to what they're talking about. So they can get away.
Anita's livelihood is finding a way to be offended. Basically.
The point is, people can do that. You have a right to do that. But if you're not providing any, real solution, like what is the real solution to what you're pointing out?
That's what I'm getting at. She has to, like, even if it's not there, she has to. So it's almost dangerous, the position that she's in, because she has to manufacture being offended. So she has to find ways when it may not even be there, which in my opinion with Zelda, it isn't, to find things that, this is misogynistic, this is sexist, when it's not. And what that does is it sets a dangerous precedent, she has a huge following. That's why a lot of people got on me because, Rich, why are you talking about her again? I'm like, even when I don't talk about her shit spreads like wildfire anyway, So that's the thing that bothers me too, is that now, because you have people making livings off of the, like, whether it be being a feminist or whatever the case may be, they have to look for things to, basically be offended by, and they'll make something be there that isn't there.
To be fair, though, Rich, you'll then have this ecosystem where people then profit off of responding to people like her, where they'll just rail against her, and then it feeds in on itself. So it's again, It goes back to the reason where it's like, all right, at what point is someone going to say, either ignore this person or not talk about her and let her just
fade
wilt
off
away? Because if people didn't go after her, And of course, you have the trolls and you have the bomb threats. If that never happened, someone like Anita Sarkeesian, you probably still wouldn't hear about to the extent that you would today. It would have never happened.
True.
It wouldn't be still this thing. And that's what it comes back to, where people that yell the loudest. And that's where it comes back to. It doesn't matter what the issue is, whether you're right or wrong. If you yell louder, you're more likely to be heard. And then people are more likely to congregate to your cause, quote unquote, whether or not there's going to be a viable response to it, or even whether or not that person, what's his name out of New York, Reverend Al, like someone like that, who's just Al Sharpton, someone like that who's just sowing seeds of discontent, and he's the one profiting off it without honestly providing solutions most of the time. Like a character like that. And again, they exist all over, whether it's a Baptist minister on TV, like taking money from people, this is why the world's in shambles, and we have, someone that says, oh, gay marriage is evil, the evils of society, send me your money, here's the 800 number, we'll send you a little vial of holy water that costs you $45. It's like, no, come on. We have to get away from this, from just people just dividing us like that, and just start. It's kumbaya, but yes, we have to reach out to each other.
It's almost like there's going to be this constant tug of war because to try to keep a balance with everything. I don't know really a better way I could word it. Where where is it just that we're spreading information, and where is it that people are purposely spreading misinformation for the sake of profit?
Yeah,
and it's tough to it's tough to strike that balance.
We're in a weird spot, speaking of that, because we're now in a spot where you have the president talking about fake news all the time, and that these major news organizations are just not being truthful, while Trump's not being truthful himself on a lot of stuff, and basically saying, well, I saw it in the New York Times, and that's why I'm saying it's true.
Or so Alex Jones from InfoWars told me.
Yeah, so wait a second. So you're saying this is fake news, certain outlets, but then this other major news outlet, you're saying that's where I got my news from. Which actually, so it's like, what's going on here? So we're in a dangerous time right now where if when you come out and say news is fake, then how do you believe what you are seeing, or are people just going to just go to the news that they think is correct because it supports their side? And like I said, we're in a dangerous spot right now. That's where I think major news organizations have to be supported, because they're the ones at least that have the structure to weed out what's bad versus just posting shit on Facebook that gets a ton of likes, which is, categorically false information.
Oh my God, it really is. Yeah.
So I rather err on the side of, quote unquote, the old news that's existed, because at least I know it used to be at some point, or at least tries to be truthful at some point. I rather lean towards the New York Times, even if they are left leaning overall, versus some, news outlet that's popped up the last 2 years that does blog posts and people take it as fact. You know what I mean? Like two people writing on a blog trying to pass it off as news. I think that's where we're at.
I think what it is too is you have to. I mean, there are some alternative news sources that I trust. I won't name them here because I don't want you always get attacked no matter what you name. But you also got to do your own research. I know no one. It's so funny how many people will post those Facebook articles that are fake, and then and then they're like, I don't have time. I'm like, but that's not real news. I can prove to you that's false. I don't have time to look into this shit, but yet they'll play Candy Crush for 7 hours a day. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't have to.
No, I've had people close to me send me links. Maybe not Facebook. They send me links that, well, you see what this person did, or this person, or what the Pope did. And it would take me like a minute to say, wait a second.
It's not true.
It's not actually true. And then they're like, oh, okay. But that's the danger of it. Where we've lost reason in terms of researching, doing your due diligence. And this might be a whole larger conversation of generational divide, where I was the last generation where I was required not just to use the internet for research, at a library, journals, getting real books and sources. And that's how we sort of learned about, about the world, and how we supported ourselves in terms of making points. We didn't just see some sort of weird graph. It was a graph picture, so it must be true. It's like, what the hell? Where did that graph come from? Is that an actual study? Is it taking things out of context there? That's just where we're at, though.
Which there could be, it has been proven that there could be falsehoods and inaccuracies in those texts too. But the problem is now is that information, but due to the internet, it spreads so quick that when it's misinformation, it's just like wildfire that it spreads, and people believe it, and it gets to people's ears and eyes so much quicker than it even did back in the early 2000s. So that's the thing that's dangerous, is that I could post a fake article and make it seem believable on Facebook. It could go viral, and then millions of people are believing something that's total misinformation that could slander or ruin someone's life, or cause a conflict, or, you know, a riot to happen, you know. And
sure, I've seen stuff posted where even it was like images made to look like it was like a CNN, you know, headline.
Yes,
like it was the same sort of style, same sort of font, same sort of layout. I'm like, whoa, that's really, really fucking dangerous if people don't know better.
Yeah.
They think that a major news organization reported something, or it's just some asshole in Photoshop making something up, you know. But that's where we're at, and I don't think there's an easy fix.
No, I don't either.
While social media, while it's good for a lot of stuff, there's, you know, it's the same thing, good and bad. You can get good information out there, like you say. You also can get bad information out there, and it is what it is. We have to learn to live with it. I'm not saying we should censor it. I think people have to be smarter. We just have to educate people.
That's the thing. Yeah, and, I'll end it with this. Just take 5 minutes away from whatever fucking TV show you're watching or game you're playing, and look into the thing that you're reading. It takes a Google search, and you could find out probably within a couple minutes if it's bullshit or not. In most cases.
Back to games while recording this. Splatoon 2 beta goes live today.
Oh shit!
There you go.
I tried to get it. Because I got it on my Switch, and I'm like, oh, I got the beta. I bet it's live now. And they're like, yeah, it's not ready yet. I'm like, oh, okay, so good. I could try that today.
It says it starts today, and preload's available right now.
I already have
it's
it
a good spot where we can. Oh, you have it loaded up. Well, there you go. I still haven't played it. I remember Ian's wife was trying to get me to play it when the first one came out, but I was working on the book so much and doing other stuff. I didn't have time to play games for like, you know, personal enjoyment where I could sit down and play Splatoon for like a few hours. Didn't have the chance, but I'll probably check out Splatoon 2 on the Switch once I find a Switch. You said Toys R Us are going to be back in stock.
Try Toys R Us's and try GameStop's. Yeah.
Well, the GameStop guy yesterday I went said it wasn't the Circle of Life lying outright, but he basically was trying to get me to do a pre-order. But I basically said, "Come on, GameStop just tweeted out they're going to be back in some stores." He said, "Well, it's not all the stores and it's single digits." I'm like, I'm basically saying, do you have them in stock or not? Like, are you going to get someone in stock or not? We're not in the middle of, you know,
holiday season,
Hodunk, Idaho. I'm in San Diego, you know, so, like, but anyway, so I'll check Toys R Us. You said in the next day or so? All right, I'll give him a call. All right, well, thanks, Rich. What do you have going on? Anything you want to promote? Where can people find you?
You can find me on ReviewTechUSA on YouTube, and that's pretty much it. I'm going to be doing some videos today. One actually regarding JonTron, because people have been wanting me to talk about it for like the past 2 weeks. So you'll finally get my opinion on that. Actually, after I end this, I'm actually going to watch his actual full debate because I want to see what he said with my own ears and eyes.
Well, I actually watched it live. I caught the last about half hour. And I'll just say from that last half hour, it doesn't look good from that last half hour.
Yeah. I don't want to see, because here's what people said too, and I won't keep you on, is that the guy who he was debating is an excellent debater, so he may have kind of tricked him into saying things he didn't want to say, which I kind of don't believe. So I want to see it myself, because I don't believe that either. JonTron's a grown-ass man. He knows what he's saying. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I don't see that being tricks as much as the guy being more prepared. And there was, from what I saw, again, I didn't see all 2 hours, but I saw like the last at least half hour. But from what I saw, he gave John a chance to even clarify certain statements, and then John sort of took the shovel and put it deeper into the ground. Yes. But we'll see what you think when you do it. I'll be looking at your response. I'm sure Ian will have stuff to say next week about it, especially since the ukulele game just dropped him as, I guess, a voice character from the game after all this.
Which I have mixed feelings on, too, but I'll explain that in the video, too.
Oh, sure. They have a right to do that. They absolutely do. It's going to depend upon, I'm not sure if John was compensated for that. I mean, if he was compensated and got money for it, and then they pulled out whatever, they can do whatever they want. It's their terms. They can do whatever they want. You know, I have no idea what their agreement was with that, with their Kickstarter. I have no idea. If it was a sort of thing where, well, you know, you helped us get a certain amount of money, and then we're going to screw you over. I have no idea. So I'm not going to comment on that.
Well, I have a feeling he probably got compensated, because I heard that he kind of said it's, you know, I have no ill will towards them. It was their choice. So I bet he got paid per diem for his work or whatever. And, you know, they kind of, okay, hey, John, we don't want to have anything to do with this. And you think he kind of mutually said, all right, that's fine. From what I've heard.
All right.
So
another strike against big advertisers coming to you, back to YouTube.
It sucks.
I'm not going to be able to hawk Maestro's beard butter in the future.
I'm telling you, I got to get that, man. If it make my beard is like a Brillo head.
No, it's I've only used it for a few days. It seems like there's a difference. Hydrating beard cream that transforms a dry, unruly beard of any length to a moisturized, manageable beardscape. So there you go. And I heard it's also a dessert topping. So
I could sit at a table with my beard. So.
All right, Rich, it was great talking to you. Guys follow Rich. He's on ReviewTechUSA, also on Twitter. He's pretty outspoken from time to time. Sometimes you might see a shirtless picture of him you may not want to see. But besides that, I think Rich is. We're not going to agree 100%, but I think overall, I think he's a good guy. Thanks for being on, Rich.
All right, Pat. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks again to Rich from ReviewTechUSA for speaking to me this week. If you enjoyed the Not So Common podcast, please subscribe on your podcast platform of choice: iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, Stitcher, or whatever else you use. You can also rate the podcast and leave a comment to help give it a boost. You can also spread the word via social media and let others know how much you enjoyed it. And if you want to help directly support the podcast and me, there's a Patreon you can check out at patreon.com/PatContry. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.